It's a ghost of a memory now, a sun-drenched mirage from a life that feels a million miles away.
Picture it.
All 18 Brown children, a sprawling, chaotic, breathtaking constellation of blonde and brown hair, limbs tangled on couches, bodies spilling onto the living room floor. A room overflowing with laughter that was real, unforced, unmanufactured. A joke rippling through a family that once believed it was unbreakable. They were one unit, one identity, one fortress built on shared history, shared faith, and the dream of a plural family that would stand the test of time. But fortresses can turn into prisons, and families can become battlefields. Flash forward to today. The laughter is gone, replaced by the cold blue glow of TikTok and YouTube thumbnails. A son, Pedon, his expression hardened by years of disappointment, stares into his phone camera and quietly declares a cold war against his father's wife. A daughter, Gwendlyn, sits before a ring light, peeling back the family mythology episode by episode, her words a scalpel carving straight through the TLC illusion. The Brown family's greatest strength, its unity, has become its most devastating battlefield. The children are choosing sides, and their testimony is damning. Before we call our first witness to the stand in this collapsing family empire, make sure you've entered your own verdict by hitting the like button. And if you don't want to miss a single piece of evidence as this dynasty continues to crumble, subscribe to Sister Wives Crew and ring that notification bell. Because the court of public opinion is now in session. The defendants, Kody Brown and his fourth, and now only, wife, Robyn Brown. The charges, parental neglect, emotional abandonment, and the systematic destruction of a once united polygamous family. And the prosecution? Not lawyers, not journalists, not tabloid reporters. Something far more powerful, their own children. The sons and daughters who grew up under the blazing lights of TLC's cameras, who are now stepping out of the shadows to finally speak their truth. There will be no objections, no closed-door meetings,
No manipulative edits.
only the raw, unfiltered testimony of the people who lived the Brown family story from the inside. Their words form a record so devastating it threatens to shatter the entire legacy the Sister Wives brand was built upon. We will examine their statements, their TikToks, their live streams, their podcast interviews, not as gossip, but as sworn affidavits in a case that has been building for over a decade. The evidence is public. The jury is us. And the first witness to take the stand is the prodigal son, Pedon Brown. Pedon's testimony isn't loud. It isn't explosive. It's worse. It's calm, controlled. Delivered with the quiet resignation of a son who has reached the breaking point. In a single podcast interview, he reveals what fans once thought was unthinkable. He is not on speaking terms with Robyn Brown.
No apologies. No softening.
Just a clear line in the sand. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He doesn't dodge. He implies a toxicity so deep, so corrosive, that complete and permanent separation was his only path to mental survival.
But why?
What happened behind the closed doors of Kody and Robyn's Flagstaff mansion that pushed a son to emotionally divorce his own father's wife? The show gives us hints, arguments over COVID protocols, the infamous nanny rules, the creeping favoritism. But according to insider whispers from crew members who watched the slow-motion implosion unfold, the truth is far darker, more personal, and almost entirely scrubbed from the cameras. The theory, assembled from hushed conversations and off-camera observations, points to a single cataclysmic confrontation in the height of the pandemic. A moment so volatile it could never air on television. The setting, Kody and Robyn's fortress-like mansion. A bubble sealed by strict, selectively enforced rules. Rules no one else in the family believed in. Rules Kody refused to bend. Pedon, like Garrison and Gabe, was trying to maintain some shred of normalcy. Seeing his girlfriend, working, living, breathing, doing what young adults do when the world is falling apart. Then one day, Kody summoned Pedon to the mansion. Not for a conversation, not for resolution, for something else entirely. And according to those whispers, that meeting changed the Brown family forever. Robin entered the room, but she did not carry the air of a mother worried for her children. No, she strode in like a masterful interrogator, every movement precise, every glance calculated. Her questions cut like blades, aimed at Pedon's loyalty, his respect for Kody, and, most sharply, his concern for her youngest children, Solomon and Ariella. The room seemed to shrink under her scrutiny, the walls absorbing her intensity. Pedon, known for his short fuse and an unwavering sense of integrity, did not flinch. He recognized the performance for what it was. Robin's tears were not born of sorrow, they were weapons. A familiar tactic, one she had perfected over years, wielding it against Christine and others to bend narratives to her favor. Now, she used it to try and frame him as the villain, to cast herself as the wounded mother fighting for her family. But Pedon was not so easily intimidated. Something in him snapped, a spark of defiance that could not be quenched. He leaned forward, his eyes locking onto Robin's, and for the first time, he spoke not in defense, but in accusation. Those close to the family would later describe the moment as electric, a storm breaking over the living room. Pedon's voice, low but cutting, carried across the room. "You're the one who fractured this family. You've manipulated, controlled, and twisted everything around you." He turned to Kody, his words heavier now. "She has you on a leash, and you can't even see it." A hush fell. The tension was unbearable. For a moment, the patriarch himself seemed shaken, the authority he had long wielded suddenly uncertain. Voices rose, hearts pounded, and tempers ignited like dry tinder. Kody, seeing Pedon's defiance as a threat, threw his weight behind Robin, condemning Pedon's words as unforgivable. In that instant, the room was divided, the invisible line drawn clearly between allegiance and opposition. And then came the final, devastating strike. Pedon's words, deliberate and merciless, cut through the tension like a scalpel. "You may have fooled him, but you don't fool any of us. We all see you for what you are." Silence followed, thick and suffocating. It was not just an insult. It was a declaration, a challenge, a recognition of truth that the new hierarchy of the family could not abide. In that moment, Pedon's fate was sealed. He was excommunicated, removed from the circle, stripped of the family ties he had fought to protect. Robin remained, triumphant in her manipulation, while the fracture in the family deepened irreversibly, leaving a wound that would never fully heal. For years, she was seen as the bridge. The one who maintained connections across the fractured factions of the family, the one who stayed close to Robin long after her own mother's bond with her had cooled. Her words, when spoken, carried weight, not explosive, but undeniable. Because when even the diplomat begins to publicly confirm the fractures and align with her mother, the cracks in the family are no longer subtle, they are irreparable. Her testimony is not fiery accusation. It is quiet, deliberate, and immovable. She is the corroborating witness whose credibility is bolstered precisely because she hesitated to condemn for so long. McKelty's stance is pro-Charlotte Christine. But in the zero-sum civil war of the Browns, being pro-Christine is, by default, anti-Kody and anti-Robin. Through her interviews and Patreon sessions, she validates her mother's feelings with careful precision. She confirms the unhappiness that had simmered for years, long before the cameras followed them to Flagstaff. She confirms that Kody, far from the devoted father he portrayed on screen, was largely absent in their Lehigh home, leaving Christine to shoulder the weight of 6 children and to act as the de facto caretaker for many of Janelle's children as well. This is not new information. But coming from McKelty, a daughter who had long been a loyal observer, a defender of Robin, it becomes crucial verification. She disproves the narrative Kody propagated, that Christine's dissatisfaction was sudden, inexplicable, and unprovoked. McKelty's voice says, "No. This was inevitable. This was a long time coming. And you, Dad, were the cause." Perhaps most striking is her evolving view of Robin. For years, she had been Robin's staunchest advocate among the older children, their bond genuine. But in her recent statements, a subtle shift emerges. She no longer defends Robin. She speaks of her with measured disappointment, confirming that many of Robin's claims of reaching out, of wanting connection with the other wives and children, were often exaggerated or outright false. In one revealing session, she dissected the infamous porch scene, where Robin claimed rejection from Christine and Janelle. Mykelti explained calmly, the offer was hollow. Years of attempts at connection had been met with what the OG family felt were barriers, excuses, and polite deflection. Robin's tearful on-camera plea? Too little, too late. Designed for an audience, not reconciliation. An intriguing layer here is the influence of Mykelti's husband, Tony Pedon. Once viewed as a quirky outsider, Tony reportedly became a pillar of clarity for Mykelti. Free from the family's history, the patriarchal hierarchy, and its culture of sweeping conflict under the rug, he allegedly witnessed favoritism and manipulation firsthand, and was unafraid to confront it with her. He encouraged her to see the family not through the lens of a daughter craving her father's approval, but through the perspective of a grown woman, a mother, someone who deserved better. Through Tony's support, Mykelti found the courage to publicly validate her mother's choices. Her testimony is no longer just hers. It is a reflection of someone who has stepped outside the bubble, who has witnessed the family's dysfunction with fresh eyes. Her diplomacy transforms into indictment. She is the living proof that even the most loyal, hopeful children could no longer ignore the toxic reality. And then there is the testimony of silence. While Christine and Janelle's children have raised their voices in a resounding chorus of dissent, Robin's children, Dayton, Aurora, Brianna, remain conspicuously mute. But silence, in this courtroom of public opinion, is evidence in itself. Their quiet becomes a statement, a testament to a family schism so deep that even blood ties cannot bridge it. Consider the context. These are young adults capable of expressing themselves, of curating social media, of forming opinions. Yet they are ghosts online, appearing only in curated snapshots of smiles and family events. They have never spoken publicly in defense of their parents, nor reached out to their siblings who have made their pain visible. Their absence is a deliberate construct, a shield crafted by Kody and Robin. The protective narrative they present, a father and mother shielding vulnerable children from chaos, masks a form of control. Observers argue that this insulation isolates Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna, fostering a loyalty enforced by proximity and dependence. Social media monitoring, restricted communication with other siblings, constant oversight. These measures allegedly create an us versus them mentality within the home. The young adults are biologically connected to their other siblings, yet they are forced into silence, complicit by necessity. From their perspective, life has improved. Kody is present. He is a full-time father. They have never competed for his attention. Their lives, in the context of the fractured family, have been preserved and protected. Their silence is the proof of the new Brown family paradigm, a monogamous nucleus masquerading as the sole surviving vestige of a failed polygamous experiment. This silence, this absence, becomes a flag planted firmly in Kody and Robin's newly established kingdom. And when contrasted with the vocal outrage of the OG children, it becomes irrefutable. In the Brown family, one is either inside the walls of the new kingdom or cast out. To understand the verdict, to truly grasp the new reality of this fractured dynasty, one must first understand the evidence. Mykelti's words. The silence of Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna. The careful, undeniable proof of a family that has been irrevocably redrawn. The allegiances of the 18 Brown children were not forged overnight. They were the product of years of observation, a slow, painful education in the brutal arithmetic of their father's affection. Each child's loyalty, or lack thereof, could be traced back to a simple, merciless equation: the love, attention, and respect their father gave to their mother. The children's court is not a court of law, it is a court of loyalty. And in this court, the evidence is etched on their hearts and broadcast across their social media feeds. Connect the dots, and a straight, unwavering line emerges, from a mother's treatment to a child's allegiance. Let us begin with the children of Christine, the woman who first dared to break the facade. Aspen, Mykelti, Pedon, Gwendlyn, Isabel, and truly, they carry a fierce, unshakable loyalty to their mother. To understand why, we must go back to the Big Blue House in Lehi, Utah. Long before cameras arrived, Christine was not merely the third wife. She was the backbone of the family. She cooked, cleaned, taught, nurtured. She raised not only her 6 children, but also many of Janelle's. Kody, meanwhile, rotated between wives, rarely present, rarely invested. The children watched, growing up steeped in the quiet sorrow of a mother who received little more than a passing nod of affection from her husband. This was their childhood, their normal. They learned early that their mother was last in the pecking order. And by extension, so were they. The move to Las Vegas promised equality. Instead, it placed the hierarchy under a microscope. Robyn, the new wife, was not integrated as an equal. She was crowned. Private dates with Kody contrasted sharply with rushed, chaotic family outings with Christine. Whispers of favoritism, moments of public humiliation. Most devastatingly, Kody's infamous therapy session declaration of disgust at Christine etched themselves permanently into their memory. But the ultimate breaking point came with Isabel's back surgery. A grueling, life-altering procedure. She needed her father. Christine needed her husband. Kody chose not to go, citing COVID-19 precautions. In that single decision, he drew a line that could never be erased. He told his daughter, and by extension, all of Christine's children, that Robyn's comfort outweighed Isabel's agony. It was the ultimate betrayal, and it gave them moral clarity. Their mother was right to leave. He had abandoned them long before. The aftermath is visible in Christine's social media. Vibrant, joyful, united with her 6 children and grandchildren, celebrating holidays, vacations, and life. Kody is absent, a ghost highlighting the love he never gave. Christine's children chose her. They chose a life free from hierarchy and neglect. Next, Janelle's children Logan, Hunter, Madison, Garrison, and Gabriel offer a different, yet equally damning, picture. Janelle's independence initially protected her, but Kody's neglect followed. Unlike Christine, their breaking point was slow attrition. His fixation on Robyn and her children, compounded by the pandemic, created a chasm. Gabriel's recounting of a forgotten birthday turned into a lecture, became a public symbol of disconnection. Kody's treatment of Janelle herself, forced to live in a trailer on Coyote Pass while Robyn occupied a mansion, spoke volumes. Her children watched a mother, strong and independent, treated as an afterthought. The RV became a physical metaphor of their place in the family hierarchy. Social media confirms it. Janelle's children celebrate each other, with their mother and with Christine's family, forming a new, blended family of the abandoned. Finally, the children of Robyn, Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna present the opposite spectrum. From the moment Kody courted Robyn, her children became his priority. He poured more time, love, and attention into them in months than some of his biological children had ever received. Legal adoption cemented it. The move to Flagstaff and the pandemic allowed them a full-time, present father. Kody and Robyn cocooned these 3, shielding them from the outside world and from their siblings. The result? Absolute loyalty. Their silence is telling. It is the sound of a family pruned, the old order erased, and a new, carefully curated nucleus established. The verdict is unmistakable. After Pedon's explosive declarations, Gwendlyn's incisive observations, Mykelti's quiet confirmation, and the deafening silence of Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna, the court of public opinion is unanimous. Kody Brown, the self-proclaimed patriarch of a celestial family, has failed the majority of his children. His sentence, estrangement, missed birthdays, holidays apart, grandchildren who know him only through television. And Robyn, while not guilty of neglect, she emerges as the architect of the new order. Masterfully wielding tears and victimhood, she secured Kody's devotion and time, leaving the majority of the family outside her kingdom. Her sentence, isolation among the children she sought to love. Her victory, total but costly. She is queen of a small, conquered realm, surrounded by a family that views her not as mother, but as conqueror. The Brown family, as the world knew it, is dead. Not killed by external pressures or polygamy, but by favoritism, neglect, and internal betrayal. Kody Brown's legacy will not be of a dynasty, but of 18 children, 13 lost to him.
The case is closed.
The children's verdict is in. The family is fractured, the empire dissolved, and the lessons of loyalty, love, and neglect written indelibly in history. Which testimony shocks you most? Pedon's blunt estrangement,
Gwendlyn's sharp critique?
McKelty's quiet confirmation? Comment below. And stay tuned, because the drama is far from over. Next, we dive into the multi-million-dollar question: who will inherit Coyote Pass?